Hello everybody, welcome to a brand new Dominions 5 Let's Play series. This time we are going to be playing a Disciples game, and not any kind of Disciples game. This game is going to be played along with several other YouTubers who are also active in Dominions 5. And so in total there are 10 players in this game on 5 teams of 2. There'll be links in the description of all the videos that have the links to the videos and the playlists of all the other YouTubers who are participating in this game. So the game has already started, and we've agreed to basically release videos kind of 15 turns or so behind. And most people are probably going to release maybe 3 turns per video combined into one, something like that. But you might, people might do things slightly differently. They might do things their way. One important thing is, obviously, we've all agreed not to watch each other's videos until the game is over, because that would be cheating. And so we also need to make a point to mention to you guys, if you guys are watching all the different videos from different players' perspectives, which I think I encourage you to do, just be sure that you don't leave any comments on our videos that would spoil or give out information that we shouldn't have, right? So, if you want to say, oh, you should have, scripted your thing this way, or you should maybe try that, then that's okay. But, you can't say, oh, you should be researching this because I saw that whatever, this other guy is going for this tech, and so you need to have this to counter it, right? So we don't want any spoilers like that. Let me start by, first I should mention who is playing. So you can expect to see videos from Lucid Tactics, from Nuclear Monkey, General Confusion, and Psy, and as well as myself. And in addition, everybody has a teammate. And I'll sort of let other players introduce themselves however they want. All the players that I've mentioned, they're fairly experienced in Dominions 5. I would say probably more experienced than me, better than me, but it should be a fun game anyways. The teammate that I'm playing with is an old friend of mine who I used to play a lot of Sword of the Stars 2 with. For those of you who've watched other stuff on my channel, it's a great not RTS, but just it's not RTS, it's just turn-based strategy with some RTS battles in it. Great game, and he's probably one of the best, if not the best players of that, or used to be when people used to play that game, in my opinion. And we kind of haven't been in touch for many years, but then I saw that he was in some of the Discord channels for Dominions 5, and so when the idea to play this game came up, I asked him if he was playing Dominions and if he was interested in doing it, and he said yes, and so we have teamed up. Now, a few things. We are playing, so this is a Disciples game. For those of you who don't know, a Disciple game it's very similar to a normal game, but there are a few important differences. Obviously, you play as a team, you share a Dominion, and I guess the most important thing is that you don't have any prophets. One player has the god, and that god carries the bless, and then the other player can design a god like a chassis, but it's the disciple. So let me, and in this game we are playing as the ponies. So I am Eriu, and he is playing as Vanheim. So let me show you, for example, if you want to create a pretender god for a disciple game. And let's just say we're doing Earyu here, okay? I'll go into the nation description in a little bit. But when I choose a chassis, you can only choose as the pretender from the Dominion 4 and the Dominion 3 chassis. And whatever you choose, for example, let's say I took an Earth Mother and I gave her, and we had a regeneration bless, then this bless is going to apply to both nations. On the other hand, if I was the disciple in this game, so let's say, in our case, we were Vanheim, so this would be my partner who'd be doing this. Now, they have a much more limited selection of disciples, and usually these are the Dominion 2 and Dominion 1. So in other words, the human chassis, the rainbow chassis, and sort of typically the awake expanders. But when you create this this disciple, first of all, there's no bless effect here. So if I take death 5, I can't take like any death bless, right? It doesn't matter. So these magic paths are purely for, you know, the use of the disciple. And obviously you can choose them for adding magic diversity to your nation or whatever it is you want to do. And you have fewer design points, but also you don't do any scales or anything. You're just designing a unit. So that's pretty interesting. It's pretty cool. It adds a lot more depth to picking the nations and picking 2 nations that go well with each other. Now, unfortunately, I was late in getting together with my partner and signing up, and everybody else had kind of like found a partner already, and they had already picked nations. And so a lot of the other combinations, or some of the combinations that I wanted to try, were already taken. So one of the combinations in this game is Marignan and Bandar Log. Now, I don't know yet the details of their build, but there were definitely a few really cool possibilities that I was thinking of. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time in this video talking about other nations' combos. I'm just going to list them to you guys, and you guys can imagine what they came out with. And as we encounter them in the game, then I think we'll pause and analyze them a little bit. So, Marignan and Bandar Log, that is Lucid's team, if I remember correctly. I should bring this up, actually. Then we have Ulm and Ashdod. Ulm, the Forges of Ulm, and Ashdod, which are the Heat Giants. Where is Ashdod on this list? That is embarrassing. There we go. How painful was that to watch? So that is General Confusion, who's playing Ashdod. Then we have Mictlan and Nazca. So Mictlan is the big blood nation. Nazca, sort of the flying undead summoning nation. That is, I believe that is Sai. Actually, I should just bring up the list here. Be less stupid for me. There we go. Yes. That is Sai and his teammate. And then we also have Nuclear Monkey is playing Cetis and Pan. Well, him and his teammate are playing Cetis and Pan. So those were already taken, and so if you eliminate all of those, first of all, there are a lot of good nations in there. And we had decided to ban Airmore. We didn't want to deal with sort of a cancer dominion. And so I had a notion that I wanted to do something with cold scales, because everybody else is basically heat scales, except maybe Nazca is like 1 cold, but they're with Mictlan, which is 1 heat. And so I wanted to do some kind of cold scales build. And we ended up, in true to my form, I ended up picking a very average nation. We ended up going with, Eriu and Vanheim. One of the things that these 2 nations have in common is that they are sort of both elf nations and kind of pony nations. So for example, their sacreds and their commanders have glamour and stealth, and they are both air-based nations, and they're sort of these high defense cavalry, right? And same thing with Vanheim. Vanheim actually also has, they have even cheaper ones, and their sacreds, they have 2 kinds of sacreds, but these sacreds are also cavalry, and they also have these spears. Another possibility, and honestly potentially a much stronger choice, would have been something like Jotunheim. Jotunheim has a very powerful blood economy, and you can have a great build with these Scrotties who make excellent thugs. And so this combined with Vanheim maybe could have been a great combo. I have almost no experience playing them, though, and in fact I have very little experience playing these sort of elf nations, the sort of pony nations in general. So it's not like I have any more experience playing Earyu than I have playing Jotunheim, but, you know, I'm all for mediocrity, so I went with Earyu. I guess Eriu has the redeeming quality that it is kind of like man in its magic paths, and I've had more experience playing with man. Anyways, it was whatever. So yeah, so I am playing as Eriu. I have the Pretender, and so how do you design your Pretender and your Bless and your scales and everything? You have to find something that can work for two nations. We decided, and I know how how the beginning of this game is going to go, but I don't want to spoil anything yet. So I will reserve judgment on this, but there are kind of a lot of ways you can go with this. Obviously, you can go with some fairly powerful Bless. Vanheim in particular has great sacreds. Why don't we talk, before I talk about the build for the two of them, let's just go over let me take a bit of time this episode and go over the nation a bit more briefly than I usually do. Eriu has basically garbage troops and glamour ponies. All right, so let's go through. We've got slingers. Yeah, they're just slingers, really cheap, really bad. Then we have like a cheap infantry unit. We have a version with a long spear. So I guess long spears are nice. Then we have a totally forgettable human medium infantry. And then we have furbolgs. Furbolgs. I always imagine there's an L in fur, but there isn't. So it's furbolgs. The furbolgs are like humans with more hit points and a bit more strength, I think. Yeah, basically. So they're still humans, but 13 hit points instead of like 10 hit points. So these are like slightly less crappy. So again, a slinger, completely useless. We have a kind of light infantry guy, but they have like very low protection. That's a lot of recruitment points, so that's pretty bad. And this guy is like the only troop, maybe. I guess because he has a javelin, so he shoots some. I don't know. All these troops are pretty bad. I guess the long spear might be situationally useful, right? For if you're fighting against something that has low morale and short weapons, then long spears are pretty good. And then we have our sacred. So the sacred is an elf unit, so it is a glamour and stealthy. But other than that, it's pretty ordinary. It's got fairly decent defense and like better than average stat, but this is a very sort of average kind of unit. The only thing that you could make happen with this in terms of a bless is like exploiting the defense, because otherwise, if you want your sacreds to do something, either they're super powerful offensively, which this clearly is not, or they're like strong defensively. I mean, obviously, or hopefully both, right? But defensively, the only thing you can't do protection on this, hit points or regeneration isn't going to work. Defense, you might be able to make something happen. In terms of commanders, we've got a scout, we've got a stupid commander with 60 leadership, so why would you make him? You've got another stupid commander with, wait, are they both? Oh yeah, he's a Furbolg, so he's got like 3 more hit points. Really, game, is that worth it? You've got a cheap monk, but he's not as good as a human monk because he's not stealthy and he's more expensive and he doesn't research. So he's just like a very cheap H1, I guess, if you needed more H1s. Then we have N1 for 75 gold, who is a spy. Oh, and by the way, all the casters are spell singers, which is kind of bad because it's slower to cast the spells. But unlike man, you can't communion them together. So again, we're all for mediocrity. So this is actually, but this one's not bad because 75 is, I guess, not super expensive, like for 7 research. And then he's a spy, so you can kind of use him for dual purposes. It's not the worst cheap mage in the game, but I'd rather have a cheaper guy that can just do research. Yeah. Whatever. It's got its uses. Okay, when we look at the real mages, we have a C champion who has kind of like so the theme for this nation is going to be glamour troops with some high defense. Now he is air and nature. He has a magic weapon, and that's it. Pretty ordinary stuff. He costs 135, so that means that because he's sacred, the upkeep isn't too terrible. This isn't like a great researcher, but the upkeep makes it kind of bearable. If the lower upkeep, because it's sacred, makes it kind of bearable if you have magic scales. So researchers are either going to be this guy or this guy. In terms of upkeep, actually, they're kind of this. So sacred has half upkeep. But the upkeep, the base cost of this is basically double that one. So actually, he's cheaper on upkeep, but just more expensive up front. And he's much more useful because you can use him as a combat mage, which we'll get to in just a second. Then we have our default thuggy pony guy. So he is Air 2, Nature 1, and he's a pony with very high defense. Not cheap though, 260. However, with appropriate buffs, and Air is a very good buff for cavalry thugs. You can do like Mist Form and Mirror Image and Flight if you want, and Attack Rear. So this is kind of like your go-to raiding unit, and they're stealthy and glamour, so nobody can see where they are, and you just kind of go around, attack rear, and cause chaos. Then we have his big brother, the Tuatha. He is a slow to recruit, but he has more magic paths, a bit of randoms, but otherwise his stats are pretty similar. And then we also have the Bean. By the way, I don't know how to pronounce these, so I'm just going to say Bean C. And she is a slightly more expensive mage, but she has guaranteed water access and some random paths. But she's not made for combat; she's just made for magic. So if you needed some magic diversity, this would be the mage to recruit. So in terms of magic, this is mostly air and nature with a bit of earth and water access. So Eriu can do very powerful storm spam. You get one of these guys, he puts up a storm, then everybody else, like these guys, can summon air power, and then they're air 2, they can lightning bolt. These guys, if they summon air power, they're air 3, and they can thunder strike. So that is sort of the go-to magic, strategy with these guys. A lot of air magic. But they have the advantage that these guys can also be very good thugs, because this is actually a pretty decent chassis, capitalizing on the defense and the glamour and the mist form and mirror image and all of those buffs that you can put on. And also you have nature, so you can do a lot of like elemental fortitude. What is it? You do bark skin. The elemental resistance is buff. So there's a lot of good self buffs. So that is basically Eriu. We have cheap temples, and that's pretty much it. Okay, and we get water and nature gems. So if you were, so why don't I take a quick look at Vanheim? Vanheim is a air and a little bit of blood nation. And they've also got these Dwarven Smiths, which have Master Smith 1, and they also have Earth access. So they have some... Earth is great for battlefield buffs, so that's always nice. So Vanheim kind of does ponies better than Eriu in the sense that they have cheaper ponies. My guys are 260. They have a cheaper 140 version, which is basically just as good, but it only has Air 1, but like it's probably better, because they also have the expensive ones if you really wanted to. They also have better troops. They have a Sacred Pony, who costs very few resources, but high defense. That's a really good unit. They also even have a Flying Sacred, so if you want to do even more attack rear shenanigans, also she has decent defense, you could do that. And then in terms of their chaff, it's better than ours, because they all have javelins and axes. Nobody, by the way, has any bows. But yeah, like Javelin plus Axe is a totally respectable, and also they have these, so hang on. So Javelin plus Axe is a great combo. I think this is a great chaff unit. Axes do a lot of damage. They even have a dual wielder, which is great chaff against certain kinds of troops. You can get a lot of attacks per square. He's also Berserker, like a very high Berserk skill. So this is actually a nice unit. And they have these Skin Shifters, which... have regeneration and turn into wolves. So this is sort of a good meat bag kind of soak kind of chaff. And they have these weird supply bonus 50 Immortal Fabors. It's kind of an odd unit, but they have that. So Vanheim is kind of better in a lot of ways. It's a pretty strong nation. Okay, so what is the build that we went for? We decided to go for a rainbow build, which is difficult to pull off in Disciples, because there's only one chassis that can do rainbow realistically, and that is the Demi-Lich, because you can't pick the rainbow pretenders for the god that carries your bless. So, you know, if you pick like a monolith, then it's 40 per extra path, right? So it's hard to get a lot of choices in rainbow. If you wanted to do just like one extra path for your bless, like, I don't know, water, then you could still do monolith. But once you try to get a bunch of other stuff, then the only choice is the Lich, because the Lich, it only costs 20 for the extra paths. So it ends up being cheaper if you do it with the Lich. And it doesn't matter because they're all immobile, so that's that. So we ended up doing... What did we end up doing? So we wanted... There are a few things that we wanted to have. First of all, you need to have magic weapons, so we're going to need to have some Astral. You just kind of need that, because you don't know what other kind of shenanigans other players are going to get up to. Then we are playing with, like, Cetis, and some nature nations, so I kind of wanted to have poison resistance. Also, one of the reasons for choosing the Lich is we wanted to have Spirit Sight to deal with darkness, because there are some, there is like death in this game. There are some death nations, like Nazca and whatever, so we wanted to have Spirit Sight. And so Spirit Sight you get by having a death cross path. And then the whole point of our sacred troops is there are ponies, so we needed magic weapons because Vanheim's ponies don't have magic attacks. My guys have magic weapons, but his don't. And so afterwards, we needed water to get defense, right? Because that's the whole point. Is if they have anything going for them, it's that they have high defense, so we want to buff the defense a little bit. And then the rest was just filling in, what else can you get as a Rainbow Bless? And so we basically have resistances. I'm trying to, let's see if I can remember what we actually went for. In terms of scale, we tried to get something pretty, we went cold 3. I want to say, I don't know, 6. I'm trying to remember. I could probably just look this up. It'd be easier. But anyways, we have, we wanted to have fire resistance because we are dealing with, for example, Marignan and also Ashdod. And so that's something, and even Ulm for some of the evocation stuff. So fire resistance was in there. We have, I can't remember now off the top of my head. Oh, wait, maybe I can, that's silly of me. I can just load it up. View created pretenders. My Little Pony is my pretender. Oh, there's a password. Hang on just a second. Please stand by while we fix this. All right, and we're back. Okay, because I'm too lazy, I don't do editing, I just record and upload, so we're just gonna turn the camera off. All right, so this is the pretender that we have. So, yeah, it was pretty close. So we have fire resistance, swiftness, because fast ponies can be even faster, because our main strategy is like attack rear with the ponies, so you want them to be fast. Especially for like Vanheim's Sacreds, right? So we took a little bit of shock resistance, because if we start doing Thunderstrike spam, then we don't want to murder our own guys. We're taking cold scales, so we're going to take Winter's Gift so that our guys can move around unfettered. And then because it's cold scales, we need reinvigoration so that our mages can actually stand and do stuff. We have magic weapon, spirit sight, a bit of magic resistance, Resilient, because what else are you going to do with one nature? We took some poison resist and blood surge in blood. And also we took withering weapons because we had a lich, so it's cheap to take death up to 5. And withering weapons I like. Not everybody thinks it's awesome, but I think it's pretty good. Or at least I think it works well with this build. But as you'll see, this build has some weaknesses, but that is what we're going for. So this was our build. And then I don't have it here, but Vanheim, as his disciple, he made the Lormir, create a disciple. I'll show you the chassis. He went with this chassis. Now, so this, this is the same as the Mastersmith. So they shapeshift into each other. But this is just a, it's like not an amazing, but it's a decent chassis. It's not too, you can take, get a few extra paths in here to make it good. Cause like water gives you quickness, death, if you take a couple of key paths, you can self-buff him to be fairly reasonable. There are no water nations on our, map, but there are a few water provinces. So, oh wait, no, not this. Hang on, I'm misremembering. No, that's right. Yeah, because this guy, that's right. They shapeshift into each other. That's why I clicked wrong. Okay, so they shift into each other. They're the same unit. And he has a fair number of attacks per turn. So, and he's got, a lot of fear. So he's not a terrible kind of chassis to just have roaming around. Now in a Disciples game, it will come online twice as fast as the Pretender. So our Pretender is in prison, so this one will come out after a year and a half. So that's it for the build. We are, I'm hoping that I can get my teammate, if we can, because we're in different time zones, it's a little complicated. But if we have some time, I would like to record some content with him and sort of get his perspective on how things have gone, and also like sort of his view. He also didn't have a lot of experience playing Vanheim. He has a lot of experience in Dominions 5, less in competitive multiplayer. He's played some multiplayer before, and a lot of single player. So he understands all the mechanics of the game, just less experience in multiplayer and sort of the meta of the multiplayer games. Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to plug in a few times when I'll record with him. And that's going to be it for this introductory episode, I think. The map, there's nothing too special about the map. It's sort of a cartographic revision map that we generated. And I am going to proceed with the second episode. We'll have the first 3 turns. And we'll look at the map. And what's nice about Disciples is you can see the battles of your teammate, right? So I'll be able to show all of that. And he also showed me how he was scripting his stuff and whatnot. And we can share and discuss our strategies. And so I'll try to keep you guys up to date. So that's it. I'm very excited about this new series. I look forward to putting out these videos. And also I look forward to sort of, once it's all over, watching, from the other guy's perspective and seeing, all the terrible things that I did and whatever successes I had, seeing it from their perspective when we're able to score some hits, and then hopefully we'll all learn more about this game. So that's it for now. See you guys shortly as we actually start the game in the next episode. Take care.